The team in green, Aston Martin, their 2023 season has been a pretty big lie to us fans, but also Alonso and really Lance Stroll as a whole. What am I talking about? There's a lot to discuss with this team. There's both positives and negatives, and this whole aspect of what I'm talking about, the whole lying part. Really, why has this been an ongoing trend for the 2023 season? Well, I'm going to mention why these are kind of white lies, but also lies. The negative parts about it, but also the positive, because there is a lot to discuss with Aston Martin. I first want to go over the positive things happening in this year. Upgrades, the car, the drivers in general.
There is 1% of me that when I close the visor and there is the green light, I still hope that that is the day that I will win.
For a long time, Fernando has struggled with teams. I would even include Alpine in that list, but specifically McLaren and Ferrari gave him a pretty big headache as well. He's a generational driver. Honestly, can you name another driver that has been in this many cars, has outperformed this many cars, and really been to that type of level? He is one of the best. And this Aston Martin stint, if you, let's say they lose everything from now in this season, it is still one of the best seasons of his career. He has been phenomenal. And the car in the beginning of the season, all the way up until practically Austria range, has been a phenomenal car. Now that Red Bull is a miracle worker, but the Aston Martin car was very solid. They got 7 podiums, including the one in Zandvoort just recently. They've been extremely solid on race pace alone. They've still given Red Bull the biggest challenge up until now on actual pace. I'm talking about Canada, where they introduced a pretty big upgrade package to their floor, to their side pods, even improvising the engine cover. The car was great there. So how does this just kind of happen? That's a positive part. They've been working in and out of a factory. They just got their new factory up. So it's been a struggle to bring parts. It's been a struggle to actually kind of work in a genuine flow for that Aston Martin team. And still, they've been trying. They've brought Fernando a car that he can be happy with. Even with recent comments of now, they're still pushing out developments and updates for the team. But with all this positivity, there is something that's kind of been blatant. In the beginning of the season, Dan Follows said that 75% of the car will change. Well, I'm here to tell you that is not the case. Now, unless something really crazy happens in Austin and they bring 15 parts, they will be one of the teams this year that have been at the bottom of the list. They are close to Red Bull and Haas, even though Red Bull have brought amazing performance upgrades in the amount of parts. They are the third least. AlphaTauri have brought over 40 parts. McLaren are really high in that list. Mercedes as well. I mean, if you look at where McLaren started and where they're at right now, it comes to show you that huge development is possible. And if Aston Martin really cared about their 2023 season, they would have brought parts out like this. Now, as I said though, the factory was just built. They have some nuances as to why the team struggles to bring out good parts and why some upgrades have been kind of falling back. I mean, if you look at last year and if you look at the McLaren car of last year, the 2022 MCL, that car literally from the start of the season to the end never really went anywhere. It was the same package. They were sometimes quicker than Alpine, sometimes not even quicker than Aston Martin. They were a very middle grounded package, and they brought parts on parts on parts. They changed that side pod concept 4 times. The floor was changed 5 times. They were trying, but it didn't go anywhere. So they were inefficient parts. So now, yes, we do salute them in the 2023 season, but let's not forget, 2022 was awful. Same thing with Ferrari. They went from a very strong car to a very, the car was shredding its tires, wasn't working well, not a great season. Aston Martin did the reverse. They started horribly, did great. Not to the level that McLaren is now doing in 2023, but it was a strong car. Mercedes also went very strong from the 2022 beginning to the 2022 end. Very big upgrades. So yes, packages sometimes don't work in the right way. You have to learn the concept of the car. This is a new car for Aston Martin. It is a base model from the 2023 season onwards. So yes, if you look at the floor, super simplistic. If you look at the front wing, it's been changed plenty of times. No consistency within the front wing. You look at a team like Red Bull. You look at a team like Mercedes. Both those teams have cars that have had front wings on for a very long period of time. They stuck it on since Silverstone. Same front wing, been keeping at it, and they're doing consistently good. The consistency for Mercedes, or even a team like Ferrari right now, is impeccable, and Aston Martin has just not been consistent. After an amazing Zandvoort performance, we were all looking to Singapore and saying, this is a Grand Prix that they can perform well at. Now, the car has gone in a direction to where, yes, they're a little less draggy, but their rear downforce, everything that was beautiful about the car, is kind of failed. And yet again, it has to go with, when you bring upgrades sometimes, they're not going to necessarily work with the little amount of time that they have to work with. They work out of the Mercedes wind tunnel right now. So they split their time up and they have a difficulty of correlating what's happening in that wind tunnel and then bringing it onto track. If you remember the Mercedes car this year, they've had the same issue. They even had an issue with their scale model of the car in the wind tunnel to where it wasn't correlating at all to what was happening in their 2023 season. So can you imagine if a team like Mercedes has that issue? Imagine at Aston Martin, a way smaller team, who's just now getting their wind tunnel and working on it for 2025. The first actual official car, I mean, it will be in the 2024 tunnel towards the middle of the season, but not in 2025. That's where they'll actually have a car fully prepped out from their wind tunnel, where they're actually going to be super efficient. At this pace though, the Aston Martin car has just not been what has been promised. Mike Crack has said plenty of times in the media, oh, upgrades are coming, upgrades are coming. I've covered it plenty of times. And guess what? We get like a little part that's track specific and has nothing to do with actual performance. They weren't terrible in Japan, but far from what that AMR was in the beginning. A lot of people are like, oh, just stick on the parts from the beginning of the season. Well, you gotta understand, this car is better than the beginning of the season. Funny enough, it is, but all around, it's just the tiniest bit better. Not by much. It's not very commendable to say the least. But when you're trying to make a car go from a downforce monster but lacking in top speed, you kind of lose the edge in your whole downforce package, or what was great about the car in the beginning of the year. It happened to Mercedes last year. It's happening to Aston this year. It's a learning process. Can they still strike upon it? They can. They just addressed the whole, we're going flat out towards the end of the year. We're going to build upon what we had in the beginning of the season to now make our car super strong going into 2024. I believe the team can do it. Honestly, I can. Aston Martin gets a lot of backlash for how they've started the year to what they've done right now. But we got to be honest with ourselves though. Were we even expecting Aston Martin to have 7 podiums into the season? They are a team on the up to be a top team. McLaren has huge history. Ferrari, don't even have to talk about them. Mercedes, champions multiple times. Red Bull, same thing. But if you look at any other team, Alpine, I mean, no offense, they're pretty much failures for how long they've been into the sport with Renault and so on. I mean, the past of them have been top teams, but as of lately, nothing has came apart. Aston has been realistically a team with a plan from 3 years ago. Their plan is to win races in 2025. Now, I know the whole 5-year plan thing is kind of tricky, but if that was their plan, and 26 being a world championship year, they're on pace. Realistically, we have to be happy with how Alonso has been in the season. As an F1 fan, you got to be happy for Alonso regardless. He has been phenomenal, and at this age, doing what he's doing, he's proven a lot of people wrong, and honestly, one of the only drivers, with the exception of very few, to actually be able to challenge Max if they had even cars on an even playing field. Aston Martin, up and down year. The lives haven't been great, but they are kind of justifiable with the whole wind tunnel, factory stuff, and a lot happening within the team internally. A lot to look forward to. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Be honest, what are your thoughts? And listening to the video, do you have a different opinion on it, a different perspective? Let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.